Welcome everyone. My name is Morgan Hicks. I'm the graduate admissions advisor here at SUNY Plattsburgh. Tonight we're going to be discussing some of our education master's programs. So those would be our MST and MSED programs, and also one of our certificate programs. We are recording this session, so we will send it out to everyone who's attending and also anyone who registered and isn't able to attend. We do have the Q&A feature up. If anyone has any questions they want to send in at any time, if you think of something, send it through the Q&A, and then we'll have some time during the middle of the presentation and again at the end to answer some questions. I think I also have the chat up as well if anybody wants to try that, but definitely I know the Q&A should be working. And then another just housekeeping thing is there are some QR codes throughout the presentation. So if you see those, feel free to scan them and they'll bring you to any of our relevant web pages. And with that, I'm going to move us forward and ask our faculty to introduce themselves. So Chris, would you mind introducing yourself to everyone?
Sure. I am Chris Needham. I am the Adolescence Program Coordinator, and I also teach in the special education departments within education.
Thank you. And Allison, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Pugliati. I'm the program coordinator for the childhood education program. And I also teach in the childhood education program and occasionally in special education and ed leadership as well.
Great. Thank you so much. And then I'm just going to show our lovely staff here in our office at Graduate Admissions. We have our director, Carrie, and our assistant director, Michelle, and we have myself, and Tammy is our office assistant, and then Grace is our graduate assistant. So she's a current graduate student in the clinical mental health counseling program, and she also works in our office. So myself, Michelle, and Grace, we all take appointments with prospective graduate students. So if any of you that are watching afterwards, if you still have questions or you'd like a one-to-one appointment, you can go on our website and schedule one of those, and either Michelle, myself, or Grace would be able to meet with you. So tonight we're going to discuss, as I said, the MST and MSED programs. We'll kind of talk about the programs themselves, how many credits are involved, what the coursework is like, what field experiences are involved in the programs. And then we'll also be talking about the application process. And I'll also review some funding opportunities that we offer at Plattsburgh. And here's some lovely QR codes. As I said, if anybody wants to scan either of those will each bring you to the adolescent MST program page and the childhood education program page, just in case you want to see those and read more about the programs. Okay, so starting with our MST programs, either Allison or Chris, if one of you would want to kind of talk about the MST programs, this is kind of for both of them. So whoever wants to start could start.
Sure. I'll offer to start. We could take turns. So our MST programs, they're a master's program. So they're for students that already have a bachelor's degree. Then you would be eligible to join us in our master's program. And really, you could have a bachelor's degree in any area. It's not required that you have a bachelor's in education. It really could be in any area that you have. And our program is really focused for a variety of learners. There could be paraprofessionals that might have an initial teaching assistant certifications, or we might have some students that are teaching but are uncertified teachers, maybe teaching in a private school or a charter school, and they're looking to get their certification. We also offer full-time and part-time options with very flexible type of schedules for our part-time options. So you can take one class a semester and it'll just take you longer to complete, or a couple of classes a semester. It's really a very flexible part-time schedule that we have. Also, we offer our classes for our MST are fully online and fully asynchronous. So you can complete the coursework at any time during the day that works best for your schedule. The part that is in person is the field placements. So we have for both of our MST programs, we do have a nice amount of field placement available within the first 2 semesters, and that is in person, the field placement. And then your last semester is student teaching, and that's fully in person also.
Great, thank you. And just to add to that, the field placements and student teaching can be done anywhere in New York State. That question comes up a lot because the program is online, and then people have concerns about where they can do those in-person components, but those can really be done anywhere in New York State. Is there anything you wanted to add, Chris or Allison?
I think Alison pretty much covered it. I was looking kind of slightly ahead to make sure I didn't want to repeat stuff that's going to come up. So we can move on and we'll fill in.
Perfect. Okay. So anybody want to take this slide?
Sure, I can carry on.
Thank you.
So to get a teacher qualification in New York State, well, to be a professional teaching certification, you are required to getting a master's degree. And so that kind of doing the MST allows you actually to jump this step so that when you do qualify, get your certification with the MST, you are able to go straight to a professional teaching certification rather than just kind of having an initial. So there's no need to getting any other certifications after that. And our actual MST programs are registered with the state. And so pretty much we can say that if you complete our program, does go get you that certification. There's nothing that you have to go on and take additional courses. There are state exams that you do need to take. The internship certificate, the state has allowed that if during your student teaching, we have a couple of chats coming in, I can see. During your student teaching, if you are able to get paid during your student teaching by getting an internship certificate, it does require the district, to actually turn around and employ you. Then you can come back to the college and saying, I have a job. During my student teaching, it is possible to apply for the internship certificate so you can get paid during that. Just so to kind of reduce costs, if that kind of made any sense. Morgan, would you like me to answer some of the questions now or wait till later?
I usually wait till we get to like the halfway point. If we want to do that, or is there anything that's like really relevant to what we're talking about right now? We could take some.
There was a question about the student teaching in terms of previous experience. Unfortunately, we can't take it because the state needs to see kind of current experience, and we need to see it as part of our program. You can't bring in prior experience, both for the field placement or for the student teaching, unfortunately. So the field experience you will actually complete during the classes, but the student teaching will be the culmination, if I can say that correctly, of the classes. So, but unfortunately, you can't bring in kind of prior experience in terms to count for that. There is also a possibility of doing field placements outside of New York State. I would have to check to be 100%, but I know the fact that we are providing for you to get a New York teaching certification. And so that when you do your field placements, you need to be in a school that's teaching New York State standards, so certain private schools don't qualify unless they're teaching. So some private schools may qualify, some private schools may not, depending on whether they're teaching the state standards. But we do have students out of state, but to be honest, I would need to check with our placement officer and to find out how that works in terms of placements. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question right now if someone is asking. But yes, we do have some people who are out of state. So how exactly they do it, though, I don't know right now.
There's also a question about prerequisites
Okay.
that says, and I think I know the answer to this, but if you were admitted and did not have 6 credits of science, is that an error? Will that hinder your certification process in the future. So typically, if people are lacking prerequisites, they would be accepted with a condition that they complete those prior to student teaching. So you actually would have to do those before you student teach. Let's see what else is in here. People are asking a lot of good questions already. What happens if you already work in a school district as a teacher's aide? Can you do your field placement there and do student teaching also? Chris, I see you shaking your head. Yes, you want to answer
Yes.
that?
Yeah. So yes, but it does rely on you working with your district. So ultimately, it will be a conversation between your district and us. So we have kind of constraints to say this is what you'll need to do, and then you need to just check with your job and district to make sure that it can fit around your job. We have plenty of people who do this. We have plenty of people who are part-time. In fact, kind of a large group of people applying are already working in schools in some form. But there is that, and so short answer, yes. Long answer, there is a level of working with each district to kind of figure out how exactly it works based on your individual circumstance.
This question says, I have a master's degree already and have been teaching for 10 plus years. I would like to get a second master's degree in special education. I might have some credits already towards it. Is there a personal meeting I could get? Yes, so you can schedule a meeting with our office on the graduate admissions webpage. We have an appointment and events page. And we also are going to be talking about the special ed masters coming up later in tonight's presentation. Another person is looking to get their doctorate, not sure where to start with that. So we don't offer any doctorate programs at SUNY Plattsburgh. Do either of you, Allison or Christopher, have any suggestions for where to look for doctorate programs?
Well, it really depends on where you live and what major you're looking into. So some of the SUNY schools offer doctoral programs. I'm not so familiar with their programs. I believe maybe Buffalo State or University of Buffalo offers a program in education. So my best advice is just to look on the different SUNY websites to see which SUNY offers the doctoral program. Plattsburgh doesn't, sorry.
Okay, so we got to a lot of those questions, but I think I'm going to have us move forward and then we will come back and do some more questions. Okay, so who would like to take this slide? That's kind of going over the layout of the program.
Sure, I could take that. So for the MST program, if you are looking to attend full-time, if you would like that full-time option, you can complete the entire program in 3 semesters. So the first semester is a full 15 credits of coursework. And one of those courses is a 6-credit course, and it includes 50 hours of field placement during that course time. The same thing happens in the second semester with the 15 credits of coursework, including those 50 hours of field experience. So that's something that's important to be aware of, those 50 hours of field experience, because it's during the school day hours. So that's something, if you're working somewhere not in a school, you do have to make yourself available to be able to do those field experience hours during the school day. And then the third semester is a full semester of student teaching, where you'll be working in a school that's close to your home, where you can complete your student teaching experience. So as I mentioned before, field placements occur in every semester, which is a great opportunity for you to be able to directly apply all of the content that you're learning in your classes right with students. So it gives you that hands-on opportunity every semester. So that's the full-time experience. Part-time really depends on how you set it up for your schedule, however many classes and credits you would like to take. We have winter classes, we have summer classes, so you could really spread out your part-time across multiple semesters if that's something that you're looking for. And it always culminates, though, your last semester in that full-time 12 credit student teaching experience. I'm going to skip adolescent ed for a second and let Chris come back to that, but I'll talk about childhood ed. So childhood ed, you could start the program full-time in the fall or the spring semester, whichever works best for you. But something important to note that if you do start in the spring semester, you will have to take 6 credits over the summer. So because we have different courses that are prerequisites for other courses. So to be on track and to complete in 3 semesters, if you start in the spring, it's spring, 6 credits in the summer, fall, and then student teaching. If you start in the fall, it's just three semesters in total if you're going full time. And another note is we can accommodate teacher assistants. I mentioned that earlier a little bit, but if you are a teacher assistant in a school, we can, as we mentioned earlier, accommodate your placement for the field experience classes and also for student teaching. Again, like Chris mentioned, as long as your district approves of it, as long as it matches your grade level that you're getting the certification for. But I did skip over that adolescent ed bullet, if you don't mind just addressing that one.
Sure. So for adolescents, if you can complete in 3 semesters, if you start in the fall, and the quickest you could be done would be fall, spring, and then the following fall, and that would be done. And we do have rolling enrollment though, but if you started in the spring, it would take you an extra semester just because there are a certain sequence of classes for the adolescence program. That means that you would need to kind of you wouldn't start your field placements until the following fall. If you start at other times in the year, it just means it's actually could be advantageous in terms of spreading out your courses more. Because if you are full time, that is 5 classes, and that is, being honest, that is a lot, but you do get done quicker. So you're definitely balancing that. We do have a lot of students who are part-time, will take like 2 or 3 courses. And therefore, if you did start at a different stage, start in the summer or winter, spring, you could take 2 or 3 classes and it kind of nice spreads things out for you.
Thank you. I am going to just open the pathways too, so people can see what those look like. So we have the list of courses here for the adolescent ed program, but I'm going to open the degree map as well. These always take a minute or so to load, but so this is the pathway that Christopher was just talking about. And you can see in fall year 1, you'd have 15 credits. And then in spring, you'd have 15 credits. And the following fall would be your student teaching. So that's what the adolescent pathway looks like for full-time fall matriculation. And then I'll also open the childhood ed. Looks very similar, but just so people get an idea. So it's the same kind of setup where you've got 15 in the fall, 15 in the spring, and then student teaching the following fall. But as Allison mentioned, this one you could also start in the spring full-time, do those summer classes, and then still be done within 3 semesters plus a summer. All right, and I'm going to move us forward. So we've talked a little bit about field experiences for these programs, but do you guys want to dive just a little bit deeper into that?
Oh, so for adolescents, actually for both programs, the field placements, New York State requires that anybody going into teaching, doesn't matter any program, and you have to have at least 100 hours of field experiences prior to student teaching. And the way that we do it is we actually put the field experience within 2 courses. And for those courses, they involve 4-week placements, or each one is 4 weeks in a school full time for half days. So that's at least 3 hours a day minimum, so that you can get at least you're getting at least 50 hours minimum, but hopefully more during each placement. They typically, actually, I just had the dates that I was going to tell you the dates, but they've gone off the top of my head. But I believe middle of October, I believe, in the fall. But basically what happens with the actual field experiences in terms of placements, I've seen kind of questions coming up. What happens is once you sign up for a course that has field placements, at the start of the course, you receive an email with a kind of form asking you for your top 3 choices of placement, and then wherever they are. And then we have a field placement coordinator who will literally go out and contact those schools. So you can literally pick your top 3 choices. Now, we can't guarantee that you will get those because it does require its district to kind of specific school to say accept you. But we do try and work with you to get one of those choices. If we can't get one of those choices, then we'll come back to you and say, look, is there any other schools? But basically, we do kind of work with you to kind of let you kind of pick where you want to be. Now, the schools that you pick, as I mentioned, again, you want to pick a school that is teaching New York State standards. If it's not an approved school, then obviously it's not going to be good for your field placements.
But Allison, is there anything you want to add about field placement?
No, I think that we addressed it. Chris addressed everything there, and we spoke about it a little earlier. There are a few questions about field, so maybe when we get to that point for questions, we'll be able to talk about that.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So how are we preparing our students for success? Would either of you like to take this slide?
Sure. So for both of our programs, we have courses. We're constantly revising our courses to align with New York State standards, and also based on feedback that we receive from the course instructors and from students, and particularly from observing students during their field placement. When we are out in the schools and we're able to see what's happening in the schools with their curriculum delivery, we're able to adjust our courses also, so we prepare our students well for it. So our courses, we have courses in curriculum design and development. We have courses addressing special education, literacy, English language learners. So there's a variety of coursework to help prepare you to work with all the different types of students you'll be seeing in the classrooms. As Chris mentioned, we are state approved and accredited college, so we do meet the required field hour requirements for New York State's. We have that field experience every semester, so you get that real life teaching practice all throughout our program. Our courses are taught by a variety of instructors working at the college, and also we have teachers that are currently teaching in classrooms and teaching the content that they would be preparing you to teach. So all of our instructors, whether they're at the college or currently working in classrooms, have experience working within the certification area that you are seeking. So not only do we have the degrees, but also that real experience, which is extremely helpful to prepare you to going into the classrooms. Also, all of our programs are aligned with the New York State teacher certification exams. So our program leads to recommendation for certification in the area that you are seeking. In addition to completing our program, you also are required by New York State to become certified to take certification exams separate from the college. Those are offered through New York State, and all of our coursework is aligned to those exams.
Okay, so I think before we move on to special ed, there's still some questions in there, so I feel like it might be a good time to do a few more of those. So in our Q&A, there's one that says for field placement, I'm looking more for how that happens if we don't currently work in a school. Our school is receptive to taking students to SUNY Plattsburgh, help set them up. So we kind of did this one. So for people that don't work in a school or currently don't have any real contacts with a school, they would fill out the form that you mentioned, right, Christopher? Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, then basically form gets filled out and we reach out to the schools. And the one thing to be aware of, obviously, if you're not, we do have some field supervisors, well, more for student teaching, who will actually go out into schools. But generally for field placements, if you're not kind of in the Plattsburgh area, obviously, in terms of observation, we'd need to record and do kind of either live or video recordings of the classroom. So just to kind of be aware of that, that's part of the program, because obviously not being in person, we do need to kind of see what you're actually doing in the classroom. So there is an element of using a bit of technology and being prepared to record yourself while in the classroom.
And then part of that question too, they were also asking about how receptive are schools to welcoming field placement students and student teachers? Is there typically any issues with that, or schools are usually open to welcoming those students in?
For field placements, I haven't heard really of any issues. Basically, it is 4 weeks, and we realize that most people are going in we don't expect you to be the teacher going in. You're there to observe, especially in your first placement. And we've kind of got steady learning. So with field placements, there's for the majority, it's kind of not a problem, but to get the top 3 placements. As I said, if the third top 3 are an issue, then we'll reach back to you and look for another placement. For student teaching, we'll talk about those. For student teaching, there may need to be a bit more flexibility, because obviously it's a full semester long. It's a lot more involved. We need a cooperating teacher who's willing to essentially give up their classroom and their time to kind of work with you. So it might be a slightly kind of wider range. We still try and get it. I believe we roughly say everyone to try and get within an hour. Obviously, depending on where you live, an hour's drive could be completely different if you're in a rural area to an urban area. So we don't kind of set a specific amount, but just kind of realize that field placement is generally easier. For student teaching, you may need to be a bit more flexible.
So this question is about tuition. If you're a full-time student, you pay a flat tuition rate, but if you are part-time, you pay based on credits if they're under 12 credits, correct? So yes, if you attend part-time, you do pay per credit. Our per credit rate is 514, I believe. So each 3-credit class, I should say, is just over $1,500. So that is something to keep in mind when you're thinking about if you're going to do part-time or full-time. And another thing with our bills is that when you get your semester bill, you obviously can take out student loans for most of these programs, but you also can do payment plans as well. So if you are paying out of pocket for some reason, you can do payment plans during the semester and make those in 2 or 4 payments rather than one lump payment. So I'm just going to go back to our chat. So we did have a few questions in there too. Someone asked, are we allowed to coach sports for the school we're a student teaching in? And are we allowed to be paid for this? I would assume yes, but I'm just assuming. So does anybody know that?
It is possible. Actually, I'm supervising someone who's doing that right now. Now, the caveat to that is you still need to meet the requirements of student teaching. You just turn around and saying, I need to go and coach. So there may need to be some flexibility built in. If for student teaching, we do have I believe they're all bi-weekly. Maybe it might be a couple of gaps in there, but we do have some seminars that go on while you're student teaching to kind of give you additional tools to kind of help you through kind of how to become a teacher, or additional skills that you might not, and information that you might not have in the classroom. And you will be expected to attend those seminars. They kind of run early evening. but yeah, as in, it definitely is possible to coach while doing student teaching. In terms of getting paid, though, obviously that's on the district as to whether they want to pay you knowing that you're a student teacher.
Thank you. This question says, I'm currently a teacher assistant in an elementary school. I have my bachelor's degree and would love to be a teacher. What can I do to get there? So if you're working in an elementary school and you have a bachelor's degree, I would suggest, if that's the area you're interested in teaching, the childhood education MST program that we were discussing earlier. With the childhood ed, you can have a bachelor's in really any area. And there are some prerequisites that are needed for that program, but they're very basic gen ed courses. So a lot of people who have a liberal arts background usually have most of those prerequisites. Is there anything that you would want to add to that, either of you, Allison?
No, I think, and I think that addresses one of the comments that came earlier with the conditions, because I saw there was a follow-up comment with that as well, right? So those prerequisite courses are needed to be completed prior to your student teaching experience. So when your application materials are reviewed, if you don't have the required, it's 6 credits of English, 6 credits of math, 6 of social science, and 6 of science. So if you're missing any of those, with your bachelor's degree, you're able to complete them while you're taking our classes, and you could take them anywhere. You just work with your advisor before you register for the class to make sure that it meets the requirements. And you could take that in person if there's a school by you, or online at another school. You could take it as undergraduate credits, so the tuition's a little bit less. You don't have to pay graduate tuition for those classes. But yes, like Morgan said, if you're a teacher assistant, this is a great program for teacher assistants. If you're in a elementary setting and you want to teach elementary school, then the childhood ed program is for you, because that's grades that will lead to certification in grades 1 through 6, the childhood ed.
Thank you. Another question says, do these pathways apply to someone who is teaching in an area like music or art? I was hired this school year full-time as a music teacher who has not yet received certification or a master's, and I need to do both. I'm currently teaching pre-K through 12th grade. So unfortunately, we do not offer programs for music education or art education. So they wouldn't work for you if you're teaching that currently, because you would have to do your field placements and student teaching in the area that the degree is in. So for example, childhood ed, you would have to be in a regular education childhood ed classroom. So unfortunately, that would not work for those types of classrooms with us, at least with SUNY Plattsburgh. Do you have a master's program that will be able to have a bilingual extension? I don't believe we have any master's programs leading to bilingual extension, not at this time. Could you share more details about the internship certificate program? Is this similar to the apprenticeship program I found offered through other universities? So internship certification is a certification offered through New York State. Would someone, Christopher or Allison, be able to talk more about the internship certification?
I can try. So the internship certificate is generally, the general idea behind it is that you're typically already in a school and the school's kind of looking to start you working in there as soon as possible. The idea, so, but basically it is, if available, such that once you finish courses, all your courses, you could apply for a job with a district. And if the district's willing to employ you, you could then turn around if you can show us that the district wants to employ you, we can then just recommend you for an internship certificate during your student teaching. So, but it does rely on you coming to us saying the fact that a district wants to employ you. You wouldn't come to us to get the internship certificate and then go to the district. So that kind of makes sense. It's kind of saying you've got a job lined up, you're essentially stuck, you want to start as soon as possible, and they just you can start during your student teaching rather than having to wait until you've actually graduated. But yeah, then you've got to come to us with an employment offer to say this is the district. We need to verify that the job is also in the area of that you're doing your student teaching. So you couldn't come with a job offer for high school and then go and do student teaching in elementary school.
Great, thank you. This question says, is it possible to extend field placements for more weeks, or less days a week, or does it have to be half days Monday through Friday for 4 weeks? Just wondering if we're working around possibilities. So is it very structured for field placements?
Yes, but there is flexibility but it's up to the discretion of the instructor of the course. So the standard placement is 4 weeks. If for whatever reason, typically if someone is already working in a district and their job means that they need to work around that, it is possible, but it is up to the discretion of the instructor of those courses. So you cannot just go to the instructor and say, I need to do it at this time. It's on them to work with you and be like, what will work? Simply because there are assignments due during field placements. So it creates more work. So ideally, yes, you would do it within the 4 weeks, unless there is circumstance that it is possible to work around that.
And that's a little bit different in the childhood ed program. So there's really not that kind of flexibility in the childhood ed coursework. So it is expected that you are available to do the 4 weeks within the time frame that the instructor has set. So that it's really not as flexible as the adolescence is.
Thank you. I think we're caught up on questions right now, so we can move forward to talk about our special ed MSED programs and our special ed certificate programs. So the programs we just were talking about were our MST. Those programs are really meant for people that don't have a background in education or don't have an education degree. And looking forward to special ed, these are programs that are more meant for people who have an initial teaching certification already. We have Cindy's picture up here. Cindy's our program coordinator. She's not here tonight, but we will be discussing our programs that we have. So we have 2 master's degrees that we're offering right now. The first is birth through grade 12, which is 32 credits. And this is new starting this summer. And this one is being offered fully online. And then we also have a birth through grade 2 program that is 34 credits. That one is registered as an in-person program, but I believe most of those courses are available online. Is that correct, Christopher? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So people could do that program online. It's just not registered as an online program. And then again, the internship certificate we mentioned here, that is available for these programs if that circumstance comes up for you. Chris, do you want to take this slide for me?
Sure. So we have MSED in special education, and then we have our special education 712 certificate. So essentially, both of these are for people who are already teachers, but then you have the decision, do you just want to get an additional certification, in which case you could get your special education 712 certification, or do you want your actual master's, a master's degree in special education, and therefore you'll get your professional teaching certification as well as that. Also, the master's covers a wider grade band. It will go from birth through 12, so you actually get a couple of certifications from that rather than just the 712. The MSED is, as mentioned, was 32 credits. So I'd have to check how quickly that can be done, as in I believe it could be done pretty much in a year, because we have a lot of classes offered in the summer. In terms of comparing, it's similar to the MST in the fact that you still have field placement, you'll still do student teaching. And same with the certification, you'll still kind of field placement, shorter time of student teaching. Pretty much both programs, you could either be full-time, part-time, there is flexibility. The idea is that you are online for these courses. If need be, there is an in-person. We do have in-person classes, just know that they do exist. But obviously these are meant to be online programs so that you can take them around, so you can be anywhere in the state. But anything else? Yeah, I believe that's it.
So we can look at the pathways, just to give people an idea. So these are the classes for birth through 12 listed here, but I'll also open the degree map for that. So we can take a look. So this one shows that it's spread out over more like a year and a half, it looks like, because we have fall year one and spring year one. And then the winter or summer, you would do those before your fall year two. It looks a little backwards on here how I would have made it, but that's okay. So you can see all these classes are in special education, and then there is a student teaching component down here. The student teaching component in these programs is shorter than in the MST programs. The MST, you have a full semester of student teaching. And this shows we have 3 to 6 credits. So it wouldn't be as long of a student teaching as you would have the MST programs. I'll close that, and then I will open the birth through 12 pathway as well, which I think might be similar. Oh, they don't have the map on this one. They have all the classes listed here. And the student teaching, it's 1 credit there. That was something we were talking about earlier before we started. That it's a shorter student teaching again. Is there anything that anybody wants to mention about any of the classes involved with the special ed program?
Well, something I just wanted to mention about special education is New York State is changing the certification for special education. So they used to have birth through grade 2 as one certification area, grades 1 through 6 as another special education certification area, and then grades 7 through 12. But now New York State has changed that, and that's why we have this new program being offered starting this summer, where it's combining those certification areas. And Chris, is the certification is birth through 12 now, or is it K?
The certification is BK through 12. So, but then there's a birth through first grade, kind of, there is an overlap. So you're going to get, with the master's degree, you'll end up with 2 certifications.
Okay. Birth through 12 certification in special ed. Great.
Let's forward. So the certificate program that Christopher was talking about earlier, it's an 18 credit program. So this is not a full master's program, but it is graduate level coursework that leads to a certificate. And this program's also online, and it's 18 credits. So this would be, people that have an initial teaching certification, but want to be certified in special ed for 7 through 12. These are the courses for that program. And this program can be done full-time during the summer, or you can do it part-time and spread the classes out throughout an academic year. So this is a nice one for people sometimes it's people that have been teaching for quite a while, and they decide that they want to get this extension now. Sometimes it's people who just got a master's, but they still want to get another certification to, be able to teach in different areas, or maybe be a little more marketable. So that's that program. We have the QR code there as well. Is there anything that you would want to add to that, Christopher?
Just kind of, as in we're mentioning the change of certification, it's kind of the pros and cons. If you're already a high school teacher and know that those are the grades you like, this program's perfect. Just know the fact that in future, and kind of as we've shown in the masters, pretty much you will, if you're going into special education, you'll be expected to kind of cover all the grades. which can be great for kind of job flexibility. But it also means if you're already in teaching and you want to, and you already know you're in high school, then this will be the certification right now to get, because its focus is specifically on high school. So it depends on who's listening and what they prefer at the times, and whether you want the kind of expanded grade band or you like the idea of going into that kind of more specialist area.
Right, thank you. And then the field experience, as we mentioned, I don't know that it's 8 weeks still. That was something that we were talking about. It might depend on which special ed program they're doing. One of the programs it was 3 to 6 credits, one of the programs it was 1 credit, but they all still do have a student teaching component. All right, so we have time for some more questions. I don't see any in the chat, but I think the Q&A has a couple. So this one says, I will graduate in May with my Bachelor's of Science in Early Childhood Education and Early Childhood Special Education. I have taken the New York State certification tests and passed, and I'm currently doing my student teaching here in Plattsburgh for my bachelor's. When should I apply and start my master's? So if you are wanting to get started with your master's, you could start an application now. If you are wanting to start this fall. We do have the applications open in August every year. So this past August, it opened for winter, spring, fall, and summer of 26. So it just depends on when you want to start that master's. But you could really apply now. You could apply this summer. We have rolling admissions for all of these programs, so you can apply as at the latest, we say 6 weeks before the semester starts. But we really continue to review applications after that point too. So really, anytime now is a good time. Can you share information, or can you share the placement coordinator's information so I can reach out about field placements and student teaching options outside of New York State? So the Office of Clinical Practice, is that who they would contact?
The email is literally studentteaching@plattsburgh.edu. It's for anything to do with field placements. That's the email to go to. Nice and easy, no spaces, no underscore or anything, just student teaching all combined together @plattsburgh.edu.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have right now. Oh, somebody just sent one. I'm currently a teacher aide and I want to pursue the MST program. What are the number of credits needed to fully complete the program? So the MST programs are both 42 credits total. So that would be how many are needed to complete that program. And another question just came in. I'll be graduating in May with a bachelor's in English from Iona University. I intend to get my master's in childhood education on a part-time schedule alongside working as a TA. Would a cumulative GPA of 2.9 affect my admission into the program? So generally, the faculty that review applications look for a 3.0, but they do sometimes offer what they call a conditional admissions if people are a little below a 3.0. So what that would mean if you were offered a conditional acceptance, they would want to see that you earn a grade of B or higher in your first 2 graduate classes. And if so, then you would just continue the program. And if not, then you could be asked to leave the program if you're not able to maintain a grade of B or higher. So I definitely would still encourage somebody with a 2.9 to apply to the program. Another question says, I have my Associates of Science in Early Childhood Education and a Bachelor's of Science in Child Studies. I also have 30 credits from Global University for a Bible Institute that I could use towards my master's. Would that be possible with those credits? So for credits to transfer into a graduate program, they have to be graduate level classes. So you'd only be able to transfer credits if you were in a master's program. They also would have to be very similar in nature to the classes in the program that you're applying to. So if you were applying to our childhood MST program, and you had graduate credits that were similar to the classes in that program, they may transfer. I think I'm caught up on questions. All right, so you can still send in questions, but we're going to move forward and talk about the application process and funding opportunities, so that people can get an idea of what admissions is like. So to start the application, you would go to our website. The graduate admissions page has a how to apply page, and it goes through all the steps of the application. But basically, you're going to start an application and fill out all of the sections of it. You'll submit it, and then you'll submit your additional documents. So additional documents that are required would be a resume, a statement of purpose, 2 letters of recommendation, all of your official transcripts from your prior colleges and universities. And then for our MST programs, we have what we call a preparatory worksheet that reviews all of the prerequisites for those programs. And then for some of the programs, you also need to upload proof of your New York State teacher certification. So for our special education programs, you would need to already have that teaching certification, and you would need to upload that. And then, so kind of dates and deadlines, as we said, our programs all have rolling admissions. So that means we recommend you apply at least 6 weeks before the semester that you want to start. So start terms in the fall, you can start full-time for all of the programs. Childhood ed, you can also start full-time in the spring, but you can start on a part-time basis as well in any term. So winter, spring, or summer. So just kind of keep those in mind when you're thinking about when you want to finish the program as well. So if you want to get done in 3 semesters, just think about what semester you want to start. So cost of graduate school, this is for 1 year. So that's one thing to think about. Most of these programs take 1.5 years or maybe 2 years, but this is for 1 full-time year. With tuition and fees is $13,657 for New York State students. And then we have our on-campus bill, even though most of these programs are online, we have that listed there as well. And also our out-of-state tuition is listed as well, even though I would say majority of the students in the programs are New York State residents. So we have contact information before I get into funding opportunities. If you have questions about anything related to financial aid, the FAFSA, how billing works, anything like that, you can contact our Student Financial Services Office. Their email is sfs@plattsburgh.edu, and we also have their phone number there. But they're a great resource for anything related to financial aid, your FAFSA, billing, and all of those things. So some of the aid opportunities that we have at Plattsburgh, we have federal aid, we have institutional aid with a work obligation, institutional aid with no work obligation, and then we also have some information about program-specific funding. This QR code on this page specifically goes to a webpage we have that's called Financial Aid Resources for Graduate Students, and it goes through all of these different opportunities that I'm going to discuss. It also leads to some of the applications for some of these programs as well. So filling out your FAFSA is still something that you would want to do as a graduate student. Some of the differences as a graduate student is that you would no longer use your parents' income information. It would just be your own information. If you're married, you would include your spouse's information. Another thing that's different is that graduate students do not receive TAP or Pell. So you're mostly doing this to qualify for loans or also work study, as well as the Teach Grant, if that's something that you're interested in. And then some of our aid opportunities that have a work obligation. So a work obligation would mean that you're doing something on campus, either in an academic department, an administrative office, or residence halls. So we have assistantships, fellowships, and positions in the residence halls. Assistantships and fellowships, you can apply for both of those right on your admissions application. And those have rolling deadlines. Assistantships, you would potentially be working, as I said, in an academic office or an administrative office, and in exchange for the work, you get a tuition waiver and a stipend. Fellowships are paid through work study dollars, so you can make up to $20 an hour through work study, and those positions again are in a variety of offices. And then the residence halls, you'd be working with students who live in our residence halls, either doing like programming activities for them, or you might be an assistant community director, where they kind of oversee the community directors, but that's basically working in our dorms with the students. And you would receive a free room and a discounted meal plan for that. And online students are eligible for all of these. You just have to be in the local area to fulfill the work obligations. And then we do have a couple that do not have a work obligation. So the first is our diversity fellowship. You can apply for that directly on our web page, and those applications are due February 15th each year. For that, you just need to be a US citizen. And through the application, you would demonstrate how you'd contribute to the diversity of the field you're going into, the student body. And then that application gets reviewed by a committee. The Graduate Opportunity Program, you can also apply for that on our webpage. It's also due February 15th. And that program is for students who were in an EOP, HEOP, or SEEK program during their undergraduate years. And that application is just a very simple one, basically just your information and your EOP director's information. They just certify that you are an EOP graduate, and that also gets reviewed by a committee. And then on our website, we also list some program-specific funding opportunities that are specific for teachers or people going into the teaching field. So these can all be found on our website. As you can see, some of them are through New York State. So they're not specifically through Plattsburgh, but they are meant for people going into the field of teaching. There's also, you can get your application fee reimbursed, which is interesting. If you make an account through Teach, which is kind of like the portal where New York State Ed certifies teachers. If you make an account first, they will reimburse your application fee. And there's more information about that on our website. Okay, so that is my last slide. So we can go back and take any questions that have come in. Let's take a look. So this one says, I transferred to a different university after my first year and took courses at my community college. Does admissions count when calculating the GPA, or is it just the GPA from where I got my bachelor's degree? I believe when the faculty review, I think that they do calculate all of that. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that they do. I don't actually review the applications to make decisions, but I think that they do. So here's another question. Would it be too early to apply now for the part-time summer start program? No, you can definitely apply now. So our application, as I said earlier, opens in August for all of the next year's terms. So you can apply anytime now. We do, like, as I said, suggest you apply at least 6 weeks before. So if you were looking to start this summer, I would say the latest you would want to apply would be late April, early May. But you can definitely apply now and have your application reviewed. Can you share? We did that one. Are there a limited number of spots for the online programs? I don't know that we have a real cap for the online programs. Do either of you have any information on that?
For childhood ed, no, we do not have a cap. Not right now.
I know that the classes, the individual sections of classes would have somewhat of a cap. And if there's more students admitted, then typically they would, the faculty would add more sections. So you're not going to have a class that has 50 students in it. It's usually around 20 to 25. Is that correct? Per class section?
Yeah, or it could be up to 30.
Mm-hmm. Right. don't think we have any more questions. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you, Allison and Christopher, for sharing all of your knowledge about our programs. I appreciate it. If anybody does have any questions, we do have our email is up here and our phone number if you want to contact our office. If you have questions more specific for faculty, we can also forward those questions on to them if you do reach out to us. So thank you, everybody, for attending. We appreciate you all being here.